Okay, today we're doing standard deviation. You're gonna be able to find the standard deviation and the variance of sets of data. And you're gonna apply, actually, we're not gonna do the application. Actually, we're gonna do some of them. I lied, we're gonna do 4 problems today. Okay, so the last few days, we've been talking about measures of central tendency. Measures of central tendency centers around the mean, median, and mode. Okay, that's the middle values. And then we talked about measures of spread. Yesterday we talked about the spread measure, the 2 spread measures that we talked about are range. We did this. The range is the difference from the highest to the lowest. And then the interquartile range is the range from it's the difference of the Q3 and Q1. So these are called measures of spread. The differences between the highest and lowest and the Q3 and Q1. Those are called measures of spread. Well, there's 2 more measures of spread. One is called variation, variance, and standard deviation. Okay, the variance and the standard deviation is what we are going to concentrate on today. Okay, so what is measure of variation? It describes how the data is spread out. Variance and standard deviation are measures showing how much data values deviate from the mean. So how it's spread out from the mean. The mean is the what? What's the mean?
The average.
Average. We use, for average, what do we use? X bar. This is mean. So everyone got that? When you see X bar, that's average. Standard deviation is the letter, we use the Greek letter sigma, like that. That is standard deviation, and if you square that, that's the variance. Sigma squared is variance. So what you're going to do, this is the formula for how you find variance and standard deviation. You find variance first and then take the square root of that. This is your variance. And this is your standard deviation. You do this first, and then when you take the square root of that, that's your standard deviation. Okay? So, first step, you're going to find the mean. What is the mean X bar? The mean is the average of all the data. N is the number of values you have in your data set. So if you have 10 numbers, N is 10. Then what you're going to do is find the difference of each X value and the average. Then you're going to square each of those numbers. Then you're going to sum up all of those numbers and divide by the number of values. That's your variance. And then when you take the square root of that, that's going to be your standard deviation. Okay, so let's do this example. So, this is what you're going to do. You're going to fill in this chart. So whatever data was collected, these were the numbers that were collected. It could be anything. How many cousins people have. So, it could be anything. 6, 8, 7, 5, 10, 6, 9, 8, 4. These are your data values. You're going to put these numbers, and it does not matter what order. So 6, 8, 7, 5, 10, 6, 9, 8, 4. Those are your data values. Can you tell me how many data values we have? How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the N value is 9. How would you figure out X bar? What is X bar? It's the average. The average of this data, you add these up. And if you added all these numbers up, can you tell me what you get? You get 63. 63 divided by N numbers gives us a mean of 7. So the X bar is 7. Questions? So you need the average. Now you're gonna look at, if this is the average, you're gonna take this, each of these data values, and you're gonna subtract that average from this. So 6 minus 7, 8 minus 7, 7 minus 7, 5 minus 7, 10 minus 7, 6 minus 7, 9 minus 7, 8 minus 7, and 4 minus 7. You're looking at where these numbers, how far they differ from your average. So you get -1 here, you get 1, 0, -2, 3, -1, 2, 1, and -3. So this is how many units these data values are away from the average being 7. Now, you're gonna take this, each of these numbers and square them. So it's the difference of the data and the average squared. You're gonna square -1, what do you get?
1.
1, 1, 0, 4, 9, 1, 4, 1, and 9. Now, you're gonna add this column up. The sum, this is the sum of x minus x bars squared. If you added all these numbers up,
30.
you get 30. Then if you divide this by, you have n values, n is 9. If you divide this by 9, that's gonna be your variance. What is 30 divided by 9? It's about 3.3. That's your variance. And then you take the square root of that. This is sigma squared. Square root of that is gonna give you about 1.86, and that's your standard deviation. So today we're just working with the numbers. That's it. That's all I wanna do with you today. It's a Wednesday. We don't have much time. So what I wanna do is I wanna go through this example. It's already done for you. I wanna make sure this clicks. So problem number 1, it says finding variance and standard deviation. So they're asking you what's the mean, variance, and standard deviation of these values. So they take these 5 numbers and they organize them in a chart. These are your x values, okay? Now, find the average. X bar is the average. You add these up and divide by 5. The average is 7.4. So the number minus the x bar is the difference of the value and the mean. So if you subtracted these two, you get these numbers right here. Then what you do is square each of these numbers. And then if you sum them up and divide by n, that's going to be your variance. And you take the square root of that, and that's your standard deviation. So this is sigma squared. Actually, I'm sorry, this is sigma squared, and then square root of that is going to be your standard deviation. So the average is, the mean is 7.4, the variance is 2.26, and the standard deviation is about 1.5. And that is what we are doing. This is your assignment for today.
It's not,
Huh?
that's not hard.
It's not hard. So what did I say? I said, when you look at this, it's confusing, but when I explain it, it's gonna be a little easier, right? Easier? Okay, so, Brett, turn that off.